Hello, this is Sondra Baras, and we're back with our weekly Torah portion. Today's Torah portion is Vayakhel, and it means gathered. And we begin with Exodus chapter 35. And here the verse starts as follows. And Moses gathered the entire assembly of the children of Israel, and he said to them, "These are the things that God has commanded you to do." Nice introduction to this Torah portion. And in fact, the majority of the Torah portion is going to reflect yet again around the building of the tabernacle. And we're going to have essentially a repeat of the instructions that we already read about in the previous chapters. But here it's going to become much more practical, whereas beforehand God tells Moses what he needs to do. Here Moses is conveying those instructions to the children of Israel, and they're going to actually be doing it. This is where they're starting to build the tabernacle. But before we get to the instructions on the tabernacle, which begin in verse 4, we have two more verses. 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day will be for you a holy Sabbath, a sabbatical to God. Anyone who performs work on that day will die. You should not light a fire anywhere within your dwelling on the Sabbath day. Now, here we are Moses has gathered the children of Israel. He's about to give them instructions about the tabernacle. We have already had all the details about the tabernacle. And so what is this interruption all about? Why do we suddenly have these two verses that tell us about Sabbath? And then we go on as if nothing else happened in verse 4. And Moses said to the congregation of the children of Israel, "This is what God has commanded you to do." Very similar to the opening statement of the chapter. We have a second opening statement, and then we start with taking up the offering, the donation, and the building of the temple. So this actually has been a question that goes way back. We find this question referred to even among our first century commentators in the Mishnah, in the Midrash, and basically the conclusion of all these people is that we understand from the connection here between the Sabbath and the tabernacle that there is something intrinsic about that association. Hello, this is Sondra Baras, and we're back again for our weekly class in the Torah portion. And this week's portion is Pikudei, which is the final portion in the book of Exodus. And we have now spent a number of weeks talking about various things having to do with the building of the tabernacle. And this is the final portion that discusses that in the book of Exodus. And I'd like to focus our attention today actually on the final words of the book of Exodus. This basically, it begins in chapter 40, and we learn that in chapter 40, we learn initially from God's instruction in verse 1, and then again in verse 17, that it is on the first day of the first month of the second year. In other words, the first day of Nisan, that's the first month, that is the month of the holiday of Passover. In other words, exactly a year after the children of Israel left Egypt, the tabernacle is established. And we have the description of exactly how that happens, and it's all brought up, and it's finished, etc. And then the final verses. This begins in chapter 40, verse 34. And the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of God filled the tabernacle. And Moses could not go into the tent of meeting because the cloud rested upon it, and the glory of God filled the tabernacle. And when the cloud raised up above the tabernacle, the children of Israel would travel in all their travels. But if the cloud did not raise up, then the children of Israel, then they did not travel until the day it raised up, because the cloud of God is on the tabernacle during the day, and fire is there at night in front of the eyes of all the house of Israel in all their journeys.
To watch this program in its entirety, go to www.glc.us.com or simply click the link below.